The membership to the EU has some direct consequences on the UK jobs market, mostly related to the free movement of labour and the contribution of migrants to the UK economy at large, to the fiscal budget and possibly productivity. Also, there are some indirect consequences of EU membership because the likely recession that Brexit would induce would of course have an impact on economic activity via a reduction of trade flows and foreign direct investment, and this of course would feed into the labour market. So the first order effect of Brexit on the labour market, something that we have possibly already witnessed, is an overall increase in uncertainty. And there are signs of this, for example, in terms of hiring freeze. If you look at online job advertisements in the UK, there is evidence of a big fall in online job ads between the week before the referendum and the week after the referendum. So the volume of job adverts has fallen from nearly 1.5 million to about 800,000 in the week after the referendum. So at the moment, the only thing that we know is that there's been an outcome of a referendum with a majority for the leave option. And then the impact on the labour market is of course extremely difficult to forecast unless we know which kind of route we follow in order to fulfill the Brexit option. So one option would be, for example, to keep the free market and the free movement of labour and be part of the European Economic Area, which means basically the similar deal as what Norway has at the moment. The other option, if the UK is willing to go for looser trade agreements with possibly higher trade costs, of course the UK would be able to retain some control on EU migration in more or less the same way as it does for non-EU migration. If the UK is going to reduce migration from the EU, then the impact on the UK jobs market depends primarily on what kind of jobs EU migrants are currently doing. At the moment, EU migrants are present in most sectors of the UK economy. There are high-skilled sectors, for example, higher education or finance, and low-skilled sectors, for example, low-tech manufacturing and low-skilled services, for example, cleaners, childminders. So in this particular sector, EU migrants represent 1/6 of total employees. So we might really expect a kind of local shock in these sectors. And the characteristics of the changes that we should expect depend very much on the characteristics of the sector. For example, in low-tech manufacturing, the output being produced is tradable, can be produced anywhere, and can be automated. So one may expect that with a decrease in labor supply of EU migrants, the sector might decline or it might be more heavily automated. In the case of low-skilled services, the output cannot be automated and cannot be traded. So one may expect an increase in prices of those services.
Brexit means Brexit.
If Brexit means Brexit, and we have to try to make it a success, the best thing to do would be definitely to retain the single market, and with it, the free movement of labour, and specifically also the current passport scheme for the City of London. Research on the economic impacts of migration hasn't shown any strong evidence of any detrimental impact of migrants on the job market prospects of natives. If you compare the job market prospects of natives across local labour markets in the UK to the presence of EU migrants into those local labour markets, you don't see any correlation. There hasn't been an awful lot of discussion about potential reactions of other countries in face of the Brexit perspective. The UK is aiming at retaining more control. With Brexit, other countries would also have a claim to more control, and other countries will try to play Brexit in their own advantage whenever it comes to negotiations. So, for example, it will be unavoidable that the City of London becomes less attractive for EU-denominated financial services, and other countries will try possibly to secure the share of financial services that is crowded out by Brexit in London. I mean, it's very unlikely that the EU will let the UK negotiate their own deals. So this is something that has really to be taken into account with the negotiation, that other countries will try to play Brexit in their own advantage and won't let the UK go ahead with their own deals. One very important element that the negotiators may want to keep in mind is really to leave out any nationalism whatsoever from the negotiations, because going into nationalism would possibly open the Pandora box of nationalistic retaliation by all other member countries. So in the same way as the UK wants to keep control, other countries may want to keep control, and I think that going down that route would make the whole scenario a lot worse.